How does one of the most commonly used medication, something that's been prescribed to more than 1 million Americans by their doctors just in one single year, became the poison that gave a doctor 7 heart attacks in one day and took her life? My name is Aina and I am oncology pharmacist. This is Poison Pill. Today's story is located in a small town of just over 3,000 people in the USA. Dr. Mary Yoder, DC, at 60 years old, was quite a popular chiropractic doctor in the state of New York. In the small town Whitesboro, she opened a chiropractic clinic together with her husband. And in this town of just over 3,000 people, her business was thriving and she led a very busy life running her clinic. Mary was born in Buffalo, New York in 1955, March 18th. She was from a large family with 7 siblings. She earned her doctorate in chiropractic medicine from Life Chiropractic College in 1986. It is there where she met her husband, Dr. William Yoder, DC, which we will call him Bill. Together, they opened the Chiropractic Family Care Clinic in Whitesboro and have been operating it for 28 years. They also have 3 children together: eldest daughter Leanna, second daughter Tammy, and youngest son Adam. Leanna, the oldest daughter, went on to become a doctor herself and practices in family medicine. Since business at Mary's family clinic is always busy, she found her youngest son, Adam, a position as the front desk receptionist at her clinic after he went to college. Not only does this give him something to do during the summers, he can also help out with the family business by making some appointments and taking phone calls. Mary was a beloved woman and a well-known member of her community. She was the image of healthy living, and she led a whole life wholeheartedly believing in healthy living and a holistic lifestyle. She loved gardening and natural supplements. She loved dancing, especially Bollywood or belly dancing. She was even a member of the World Music Choir, singing and drumming as a talented musician. But how did such a health-conscious, vibrant Mary with a big and loving family suddenly fall ill from a terrible incident in 2015? If you enjoy stories like this, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below to let me know. I'm considering making this into a series. Monday, July 20th, 2015. Mary Yoder goes to work in her clinic just like any other day. Chiropractors see about 15 to 30 patients a day, and after a very busy morning clinic, she took her lunch break and she drank some protein shake with almond milk, something that she does on a daily basis. She then left her clinic briefly to run some errands, and when she came back, this is when she started feeling awful. She suddenly started having intense nausea, stomach pain, and diarrhea, and these symptoms did not go away, and she just couldn't take it anymore. Mary, this vibrant, healthy woman who barely took any sick day away from work, had to cancel her afternoon appointments and go home early that day. When she came home, her husband Bill saw that she immediately ran to the bathroom and could hear her starting to puke inside. Naturally, Mary thought that these symptoms were probably from something bad she ate at lunch, and with some rest, she could gain a speedy recovery. However, Bill, Mary's husband, watched her go from the couch to the bathroom back and forth the entire night, unable to fall asleep at all. Bill was obviously worried about Mary's situation, and he was on the phone calling their children about her mother being ill. But in particular, Bill wanted to talk to their eldest daughter, Leanna, because as we know, Leanna is a doctor herself. And the next morning, on Tuesday, Bill took Leanna's advice and drove Mary to the nearest hospital, St. Luke's campus of the Mohawk Valley Health System, which is only a 7-minute drive from the town that Mary lives in. At the hospital, the doctor's initial diagnosis was the same as what Mary thought: food poisoning. So they started treating her right away. Now, as a pharmacist that works in a hospital, if a patient comes in with acute diarrhea and vomiting, the general treatment we would give would be IV hydration. So at this point, Mary probably would have IV lines running into her body with saline and electrolytes. We would also start giving antibiotics because at this point, even though we don't know exactly what the cause is, we want to start killing the bugs that might potentially be causing this right away. And this is what we call empiric antibiotic therapy. We would also be giving Mary whatever drugs to target her specific symptoms. For example, if she's having diarrhea, we would give something called loperamide, which is used to stop diarrhea. If she has a lot of nausea and vomiting, we would give her medications like metoclopramide or prochlorperazine, which are what we call antiemetics. After these immediate and aggressive treatment, Mary started getting better. During that day on Tuesday, Bill became less and less worried because it looks like Mary was getting better and better. And on the back of his mind, he really thought that Mary was going to get through this because just a few months ago, their youngest son, Adam, had the exact same symptoms as Mary. And after a few weeks, he recovered. They all thought he had the stomach flu. However, just as Bill started to doze off on that Tuesday night after a very tiresome day spent at the hospital, he was woken up early in the morning on Wednesday by the doctors and was told that Mary took a turn for the worse. Bill came into Mary's ICU room and was shocked. At this point, Mary was strapped to her bed, a tube shoved down her throat, and multiple IV lines running into her body, and she was barely responsive. And on this Wednesday that might have felt like the longest day in Bill's life, Mary went through 7 cardiac arrests just in that one day. All her children are now at her bedside, wishing for her to get through this. The doctors trying but failing to treat her and cannot figure out what's wrong with her. And after her last cardiac arrest, Mary never woke up again after 2:54 p.m. on Wednesday, July 22nd, 2015. Her family was devastated. Mary's family immediately requested an autopsy report. And at first, the forensic pathologist, Kenneth Clark, tested for the standard poisonous substances like arsenic and cyanide, but they all came back negative. However, Clark soon discovered something that he claims he has never seen in his entire career. Mary's organs, especially her large intestines, small intestines, and liver, were smeared with the colors red, green, and purple. A closer look revealed something shocking. The cells all had the same patterns of programmed cell death, what we call apoptosis. All of our cells naturally have a life expectancy, and to meet their destiny, they have apoptosis programmed in their DNA. If this didn't happen, they would go on to live forever and become cancerous. I've talked about programmed cell death in my video about why whales don't get cancer, so if you're interested, I'll leave that link down below. But at this point, time was running out. The samples that they took from Mary was being used up one test tube at a time. There was not many samples left. And Mary's body was already cremated, so no more samples could be taken. Anxious and frustrated, Clark looked everywhere for advice, and finally, he talked to a doctor from a poison control center and gave him the idea. Mary could have died from colchicine poisoning. Colchicine is an extremely common medication prescribed for gout. Almost 1 million people are on this medication in the US alone in 2022, and almost 2 million prescriptions have gone out in that same year. It is the drug of choice, what we call first-line therapy, for people who are having a gout attack. And its effects are immediate. It peaks in the body in about 30 minutes, giving the patient quick relief from pain and swelling. It can also last quite a while in the body. Its half-life is 30 hours, which means after 30 hours have passed, there's still 50% of the drug left in your body. Under prescribed doses, colchicine is generally really well tolerated and it rarely gives people a lot of side effects. However, I always counsel on this one category of side effects because about 23% of the people will experience this. And that's gut-related symptoms like diarrhea, vomiting, and nausea. And even though mild at prescription doses, colchicine is an entirely different beast when taken in higher amounts. In fact, here are the symptoms of colchicine poisoning. 2 to 24 hours after poisoning, patients will have acute nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, and diarrhea. These gastrointestinal symptoms are already suggestive of severe toxicity. 1 to 7 days after poisoning, patients will start to develop multi-organ failure, heart irregularities, mental status changes, breathing difficulties, and cardiac arrest. This sounds almost like the exact blueprint Mary felt after getting sick on that first day of Monday, July 20th. Normally, patients with gout would take maximum 1.2 to 2.4 milligrams of colchicine per day, but the lowest reported lethal dose of colchicine is 7 milligrams. And the reason why colchicine is so toxic, a mere 7 milligrams of it can cause fatal death, is exactly due to the way it works to treat gout. Colchicine causes disturbances on the outer membranes of our cells, which we call cytoskeleton. And it's the structure of the cell that gives its shape. Colchicine disrupts this by preventing the assembly of microtubules, which is the core structure of cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton is what gives the cell its basic ability to move and divide. So disruption to the cytoskeleton means that a cell is unable to divide. And the worst part is that it affects all organs in the body. any types of cells like muscle cells, brain cells, blood cells, they're all affected. And the cells with the highest turnover rates, like the ones in the guts or in the bone marrow, are the ones that get hit the hardest. That's why the most immediate symptoms of colchicine poisoning are nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. But actually, at very low doses, this mechanism of disrupting the microtubules actually decreases the inflammatory response. During gout, there's a lot of inflammation happening in the patient's joints, particularly in the big toe. So by reducing inflammatory response, we reduce pain and inflammation in the patient. So on November 18th, 2015, after a month of painfully waiting for the results, Mary's husband, children, and siblings finally received the autopsy report. Mary had 15 times the lethal amount of colchicine in her body. How did this lethal amount of colchicine enter this extremely health-conscious Mary's body? That's exactly what Mary's family wanted to find out. But Mary's husband, Bill, didn't do anything for 3 months after Mary's death. It was Mary's sister, Sharon, who couldn't wait anymore. She contacted the police department and insisted on an investigation for her sister's death. The person that Sharon suspected was none other than Bill. The reasons behind this was that all of Mary's sisters felt that Bill wasn't that sad after Mary passed away, and that there is a possibility that Bill has been cheating on her. The police started investigating Bill, but soon realized Bill didn't seem like their guy. And just at the time where the investigations were going nowhere, they received a piece of evidence that turned the table completely. The investigations department received an anonymous letter, and in this letter, the writer directly accused Mary's youngest son, Adam, the guy that used to work as the front desk receptionist at Mary's clinic, and the guy that just had the exact same symptoms as Mary just a few months ago, as the killer. The letter contained very detailed and juicy information. It explains that Mary died from colchicine poisoning. It says that someone has mixed colchicine into Mary's supplements. This person also purchased the colchicine from an online shop. And this person is none other than Mary's youngest son. After reading this letter, the police were shocked because at this point, they have not publicly announced that Mary died from colchicine poisoning. So how would the writer of this letter know all of this detail to this degree? And what's even juicier is that this writer says the container for that colchicine bottle that Adam purchased online is under his passenger seat of his Jeep. With such an intriguing letter, of course, the police couldn't pass on the opportunity to question Adam and search his car. And inside Adam's car, under the passenger seat, they found that bottle of colchicine. Not only that, they found the receipt of that purchase. The name and the mailing address clearly says Adam Yoder, with the email address mradamyoder1990@gmail.com. From this police photo of that colchicine bottle, we can clearly see that there is an entire 1 gram of colchicine in this bottle. And I am in a bit of disbelief here because I thought colchicine was a prescription medication in the United States, so that means it's a scheduled drug. You should only be able to buy this from a licensed pharmacy with a prescription. Even if you wanted to buy the drug powder, you'd have to go through a pharmacy and they would have to set up a legit account with these drug manufacturers. And the powder would strictly be used for compounding purposes, like if someone couldn't swallow the pill or they wanted a different flavor. I didn't know it was possible to straight up buy colchicine from an online store. And looking at the receipt, this bottle of colchicine was $189 USD. After seeing the police find all this evidence in his own car, Adam could not believe his eyes. He was shocked beyond belief and immediately said that he's never purchased colchicine from any online store. That's not even his email address, and he was nowhere near his mom on the day that she fell ill. Adam was visiting his sister, Leanna the doctor, 300 miles away on Long Island. The police felt that Adam's response was genuine, and he does have a perfect alibi, but they still kept tabs on him. And to find out more about Adam as a person and to see whether or not he had real motives to end his own mother's life, they brought in Caitlin, Adam's girlfriend, for questioning. Now, Caitlin also comes from a large family, one of 7 children, and she's also been a good kid at school growing up. She had good grades, was good at sports, and met Adam before college at a party. Adam and Caitlin had an on and off relationship, but every time Adam wants to break it off, Caitlin always seemed to find a way to bring Adam back into her arms. Throughout the 4 years, they've gone through many breakups, fights and arguments. And when Caitlin had time, she also worked as the front desk receptionist at Mary's clinic. She was very good at her job and soon earned the trust from Mary and Bill, and then was promoted to clinic manager. During Caitlin's questioning, the investigators asked Caitlin about her and Adam's relationship. She tells them that they have a rocky relationship and Adam has even gotten physical with her before. And towards the end of the interview, Caitlin finally reveals that she knows Adam was the real killer. She says that after he did it, Adam confided in her and told her everything. After hearing the statements, the investigators feel like the way Caitlin describes the whole situation is very similar to that anonymous letter. And at the end of the interview, the investigator asked Caitlin if she could leave a sample of her DNA. Caitlin agreed. And to the investigators' luck, at the same time, the lab found a piece of DNA on the back of the stamp of that anonymous letter that was mailed to the investigator's office. This piece of DNA and the DNA Caitlin provided matched perfectly. At the same time, the investigators have been asking Google to look into the account Mr. Adam Yoder 1990. And it turns out this account has only been logged into 3 different devices: the front desk at Mary's clinic, Caitlin's personal cell phone, and Caitlin's desktop at home. And what's even more mind-blowing is that Google told the investigators the password to this email. And the password is Adam is gay. And the investigators thought, who would ever set up a password like that for themselves? All the evidence now points towards Caitlin as the one that poisoned Mary with colchicine. 2 years after Mary's death, on April 26, 2017, the trial for this case finally began. The prosecutor charged Caitlin, only 24 years old at this time, of second-degree murder, and stated that her motives for doing this was because she was rejected by her boyfriend Adam and wanted to end his mother's life to get him back. And after years of trial, retrial, and appeals, Caitlin is currently sitting behind bars, serving a 23-year sentence. But many people believe that she is wronged and she's innocent. There are people that believe Adam's the real killer, and there are others that believe Bill was the one that did it. I thought this case was super interesting because it involves a very commonly used drug as a weapon, and I hope you enjoyed this video as well. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more contents like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!